it away.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for asking. I believe this is my first ever workshop that I've hosted. I don't recall hosting a workshop anywhere. I've attended a lot of workshops. Maybe I have over my time. If I have, please do jog my memory. Welcome to everybody from wherever you are in this wonderful world. And I do believe we're all from NA, which is great. And if you're just new to this, please just stick around. If there's anything you don't understand, we are going to have like a question and answer. If I do not know the answer, I might even say, I do not know. I will try my best and open it up to maybe somebody that does have answers. But as a sponsor said to me, you know, like even through our step working guide, the questions don't ask for answers. It asks us for our experience. And that's what it asks us to put. And that's what I'm going to try and do with this book. You know, I'm not an expert by any means, but I am experienced, you know, and I'm familiar with the book and I love our literature. So it's a great honor to be asked. It's a great honor to be asked by this group. Thank you to the 3 founding members, if I remember correctly, from the many, many years ago it was founded. I joined straight away. And then, as Paul said, kept the meeting open for a long, long time. So thanks to all the people that attended that meeting over all the time, everybody that served, and that's up to and including today and tonight, and to you guys for being here. Without you guys, this isn't possible. So the book, this is our basic text. This is my copy. I think, was it to say, a basic text that's falling apart is usually owned by someone who isn't. Just for today, I'm not falling apart. That hasn't always been the case in my clean time. So have you all got a basic text? You all, we do like hands up who's got, yeah, there we go. Welcome. Oh, I'm going to say welcome, David. I've just seen you there, my friend. I haven't seen you in a long, long time. How wonderful to see you here. I didn't mean to exclude anybody. I know David from years ago, and I haven't seen him in ages, so that's lovely. Okay, so the chapter itself, it's in between our steps and traditions. And I don't know why they've tucked it in there. Maybe somebody will have the answer to that. Maybe Frankie will maybe have our experience to that. Who knows? But that's not the question yet. We'll maybe go to that one later. But it's in there for some reason, and I don't know why. They've maybe just put it in there. But as well, it says, what can I do? It's very specific. It's not a we, you know, it's what can I do? So what can Paul do? Or what can Spencer do? What can Robin do? What can Sam do? What can Ben do? You know, what can I do? So it says, begin your own program by taking step 1 from the previous chapter, how it works. When we fully concede to our innermost selves that we are powerless over our addiction, we have taken a big step in our recovery. So here's the first question. Who knows what concede means? Anybody want to have is everybody able to unmute themselves? Are we trusting everybody with their microphones tonight?
Admit to truth.
Yeah.
To get to truth, did someone say?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I've got definitions for all kinds of words, and it turns out that a lot of the time I'm not either exactly right or I can be wrong, and sometimes I'm spot on. But I had a little wee look. Right. So when we fully concede to our innermost selves, to concede is to acknowledge grudgingly or hesitantly, to relinquish grudgingly or hesitantly. And as someone just said, to accept as true, valid, or accurate, and also to grant as a right or privilege. So when we fully concede, you know, that's what it is. I didn't accept that I was an addict. It was kind of grudgingly, and it was over a long, long time that I was powerless over addiction. It took a long time for me to understand that, and the literature helped me. It goes on, you know, as many of us have had some reservations at this point. So give yourself a break and be as thorough as possible from the start. Go on to step 2 and so forth. And as you go, you will come to an understanding of the program for yourself. If you're in an institution of any kind and have stopped using for the present, you can with a clear mind try this way of life. And it goes on in the next two paragraphs. It speaks about being an institution, or if you're a newcomer, you can reach out, to meetings by mail. If you stop using, put yourself on a minute by minute basis. Minutes turn to hours, hours turns to days, etc. And the third paragraph, just at the bottom, it says the real miracle happens when you realize that that the need for drugs has in some way been lifted from you. You have stopped using and have started to live. Is there anybody in here that's got a desire to stop using? Tony, Vegas.
You said to stop using.
The desire to stop using.
Yes, absolutely.
You have the
I wanna
desire.
stop.
You've stopped.
Yes.
So you have the desire to stay stopped.
Yes.
Wonderful, Tony. Good man.
Yeah.
I presume that's why you're here tonight. Wonderful.
Couldn't get a date.
Yeah. So in case anybody, I don't want to put anybody on the spot or anything, but if there is anybody new in here, that little bit, it speaks about it, about stopping using. And it says, that we can, many of us can do for 8 or 12 hours what seems impossible for a longer period of time. So it encourages us to, really to keep it in today. Whatever that using might be. It might be something else for Tony. Maybe Tony's got a desire to stop using slot machines, Oh, he's in Sao Paulo, but his name's Tony Vegas, but if you're a drug user, then it's encouraging us to sort of squeeze it into today. And it says, about the obsession and compulsion, if it's too great, put yourself on an hour by hour, minute by minute basis. And that happened to me, that the obsession was used. It's a complete miracle, an absolute miracle, and just for some people, it could be a while, but for me, it was quite quick and it was incredible. And it says at the bottom there, the last chapter, the first step to recovery is to stop using. We cannot expect the program to work for us if our minds and bodies are still clouded by drugs. And again, it's telling us about abstinence there, So if you're new and you're in about and you've got the desire to stop using, please keep coming back and come back clean. But it lets us know that the program won't work for us if we're still using our minds and bodies are clouded by drugs. So, what can I do? I can stop using and believe that, that recovery is possible and have faith in what the people were telling me, because I didn't believe recovery was possible. I didn't. But the people in NA, they believed because they were living examples of it, and they asked me to put my faith in them. Says we can do this anywhere, even in prison or an institution. What great H&I material. So if anybody here is doing H&I, this get the book in there, encouraging to that page. That's what I can do. I can bring it to my H&I committee and let them know that that's in there, so that the inmates can read it. Or if they're in institutions of any kind, we do it any way we can. So it doesn't matter how we get clean, just as long as we do it. Cold turkey and detox, just as long as we get clean. Then the next bit, boom, straight in, developing the concept of God as we understand him as a project that we can undertake. Like, whoa, like I've just stopped using and you're asking me to understand God or develop a concept. It's like, wow. For someone that had very kind of strong views and opinions about a number of subjects, one being religion, even though this is a spiritual program, it became a block for me. But I became very open-minded very quickly as to what it meant to me. And it encourages us to do that, whatever that is. A concept's just an idea. And I'm sure you all here had an idea of what God was or wasn't before you came here. How many of us cried out for help to something that we proclaimed not to believe in? Because I sure did. And I blamed it as well. And so it was a difficult and long journey for me, but now I have something that's very personal to me. And that's the beauty of our third step. So already it's encouraging us into the step without, might not even be at the third step with our sponsors, but it's encouraging us towards that. We can also use the steps to improve our attitudes. Next question, hands up here who has or had a bad attitude. 2 and 3, yeah. If this is not unanimous, then you just don't need NA, or maybe you're that deep in denial. Paul's got 2 hands up. Nice one, Paul. Well done. Yeah. So, it's our attitudes, and it's wonderful. It says our best thinking got us into trouble. I remember hearing somebody say about their best thinking, that they went on their best ideas, not their second, third, or fourth best idea. They went on their best ideas, and their life was just a complete mess. And that was their best thinking. And that's what gets us into trouble. Still can. Still can, whether you're a day, a decade, So our disease involved much more than using drugs. So our recovery must involve much more than simple abstinence. Must, thanks to Frankie for that one about the musts. I thought they were just suggestions. It tells me clearly there, that it must involve much more than simple abstinence. Kind of stay clean. There's the No Matter What Club. Our literature speaks about the no matter what, like stay clean no matter what, which is, and hey, my no matter what has came along, don't use no matter what. But there's stay clean no matter what as well. And both is about abstinence. But my sponsor asked a lot of years ago, like I asked, a question, what does recovery mean? And I can guarantee if I open this up to the 20 people that's in here and ask each one of you what recovery means, we will get 20 different answers, which is great. And there's nothing, there's no right or no wrong. But in here, it tells us exactly, in this statement, what recovery is. Recovery is an active change in our ideas and attitudes. And here it was there. After years in the program, I thought I knew what recovery was, but it told me there that it's an active change. I've got active underlined in this page. Active change in our ideas and attitudes. Because my great ideas ain't so great. And my great attitude ain't so great either, and I needed that active change, and that came about through step work. I feel like just throwing it open if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to input just up to now, because this
Can I just jump in on one thing, Paul, before you move on to the next section?
Please do, Frankie.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that one of the things that I've learned is that when we fully concede to our innermost selves, that we're powerless over our addiction, I found in recovery, a lot of people make fun of that because it's a little bit technical jargon, isn't it? Fully concede to your innermost self. It's, as you've explained clearly, to concede is to, clearly go against what you understand. What was the quote you used? After first denying something.
Yeah, it's grudgingly or hesitantly.
Yeah, so when we fully concede to our innermost self, we're kind of having to admit that we're addicts. And the reason we do that is because once we've had the prognosis and the diagnosis that we're an addict, because we get the prognosis by coming here. The diagnosis our sponsor helps us with step 1. But then what happens to us is we don't have to rely on our memory or our knowledge. That's why people who are not clever are really good at getting recovery. People like myself, who class myself as highly intelligent, took 10 years to get this because I'm too clever. It's not, the problem was I didn't know too little, I knew too much. So to fully concede to your innermost self is to actually accept in your stomach that you're an addict. Then you have to do something. That's back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Frankie. Yeah, is that it's an acceptance and surrender. It's a way to kind of stretch that out. The example in the dictionary conceded that it might be a good idea. You know, it might be a good idea. It might be a good idea to not continue using, or it might be a good idea to follow suggestions. That's the kind of addict I am. I proclaim that, yes, you know, I fully surrendered. I was brimming with open-mindedness and willingness when I came in the program, but that wasn't true. I was just copying what everybody else was saying. But that's okay too. You know, that's how I learned, by imitating. You know, so has anybody else got anything they would like to add, or any kind of input questions at this point, or shall we move on?
I think we should use raised hands. You know, people can unmute and we'll call you in if anybody's got.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Thanks, Paul.
Scotty, I think you were first, didn't you come?
Yeah, I'm Scott. I'm an addict. Yeah,
Scott.
thanks for meeting. I think for me, I have to make peace with the fact that I am an addict. That also comes with acceptance. I accept now that I am powerless over any mood or mind-altering substances. So for me, I've accepted that I am unmanageable, and I think with that, once I've accepted it, I've made peace with the fact that I have to do Narcotics Anonymous for the rest of my life. I'm okay with that. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Scotty.
And Spencer, do you want to come in? Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. My name is Spencer and I'm an addict.
Hey, Spencer.
So thank you, family, for being here. I think I can learn a lot here. So to concede, for me, for example, it took me about 2 years. I was talking about me, myself, and I'm Spencer. Now, if I say now, I'm Spencer and I'm an addict, I admit, you know, that I'm powerless. I admit that I'm an addict. That's the moment I surrender to the program. Surrender is a very important word for me now. And what I like about the whole book, the basic text, is everything you've said now, Paul, is you can interlink it. You know, you ask, has anyone the desire to stop using? Well, I want to be a member. It's interlinked to tradition number 3. You know, the only requirement for membership is desire to stop using. So I love the way the book is interlinked, and the first line, what can I do, is a very important one, because it's not about me anymore. What can I do for you? So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Spencer. And it's a good, you know, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. You know, that's you know, in our traditions, but it's not the only requirement to stay clean. It is not, you know, and that's highlighted in there, and it says that, you know, that our disease involve much more than not using drugs. So recovery must involve much more than simple abstinence. You know, anyone and everyone is welcome and can be a member. You know, but just because I say I'm a member, it's not going to keep me clean. You know, simple abstinence, even that 2 words, simple abstinence, that didn't seem like simple. You know, especially if you're still using. What do you mean simple abstinence? You know, once we stop using and stay clean, then I must do more, you know,
Correct.
than just say I'm a member. You know, it's beautiful that I am, and it creates that unity, a belonging, I'm involved. But for me to stay clean, it says I must, you know, must do much more. So, you know, it's great that I admitted that I was an addict. You know, and if you're in here and you're new, you know, and you identify as an addict, great. And I was encouraged to get a sponsor to go through the steps to find out what addiction meant to me, because it was clear as day that I was a drug addict. Eventually, it was as clear as day I was a drug addict when I came in. But addiction, find out what that meant to me. You know, it says our disease involved much more than using drugs. Well, so there was more to it than just using drugs. And yes, and when the drugs stop, there's much more to it. And it's that addiction that will take us back to using. And that will come from a point of being clean. So I encourage anybody that doesn't have a sponsor to find a sponsor, you know, and to help and guide them through in that loving process of the steps. So we're on page 55.
Paul,
and-
sorry to jump in. Robin just wants to come in. She's waving.
Yeah.
Up front. On you go, Robin. Unmute.
Thank you, my friends. I just, what I keep remembering is how beaten when I finally did. Okay, so what I keep getting is that my self-esteem, my attitude was so bad that, and I keep remembering the quandary of the egotistical, you know, beaten, humiliated, lack of self-esteem being that came into these rooms. It was such an oxymoron, you know. My attitude was, you know, but it was also, oh my God, I'm not worthy of this. You know what I mean? I just did not feel good about who I was at all, or my entire life, you know, and I just felt like a horrible human being, you know, not even a human being. It was freaking, I was just a mass of yuck, you know, and, but at the same time, I was so full of fear, you know, and my mind was so all about managing, manipulating, controlling, you know, in fear of letting anyone else guide me and suggest anything I was terrified. I was terrified to stay, and I was terrified to go. You know, I just didn't know who, what, or how to be. I'm just grateful that I recognized the desperate need for change, and I did not know how to get that. I did not know how to do it, find it, understand. I didn't even know what it was. You know what I mean? I just didn't know what it was. I just knew that I couldn't live like I was living. I was gonna die. And I think that the give yourself a break and getting a sponsor, but connecting with the women and allowing them to just hold on to me and let me hold on to you, you know, and I'll keep coming back. And it kind of, you know, it took a minute for me to feel better, and it was uncomfortable, but I just stayed because I didn't know, and I saw other people being okay, or what seemed to be okay. So, and I listened to my sponsor when she told me that, you know what, you lived this far, you know, the God of your understanding hasn't brought you this far to drop you, you know, you're here for a reason, you're still breathing for a reason. So I just kind of hung on to that. So yeah, I remember how devastated it was. And if you're new, man, please hang on and please keep coming back, because you are here for a reason and you are worthy of it.
Thanks, Robin. Let's keep moving it along. Great. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Robin. You know, and it's so important, you know, to anybody that's new, that's coming in, and to ourselves, you know, to welcome that newcomer that comes in, you know, because we're desperate and dying. And I was anyway, when I came in, that's how it felt. And there's a line in the book and it says, you know, we share comfort and encouragement with one another, you know, and that's what we do here, you know, and we love each other until we can love ourselves. Yeah. Okay. So the next paragraph, it says the ability to face problems is necessary to stay clean. Now that pretty much, you know, highlights to me that if I don't face my problems, there's a good chance I'm going to use. You know, that's the way I interpret that. If I don't face, you know, and I didn't want to face anything in my using, but in my recovery, you know, it says the ability to face problems is necessary to stay clean. And there's a line in the cards that says, you know, through our inability to accept personal responsibility, we were actually creating our own problems. It doesn't say through my unwillingness, you know, my inability, you know, that's step one, problems, through my inability to accept personal responsibilities. I want to, but I have this inability at times, whether it was to stop using drugs or to face certain problems. You know, it is necessary to stay clean, and that's why it's a we program. It goes on to say, if we had problems in the past, it is unlikely that simple abstinence will solve these problems. Can't just be like, yeah, I'm clean, it's cool, I'm clean. You know, I have to face these problems, the reality of life on life's terms, life on Paul's terms, and sometimes life on higher powers terms as well. Right? Let's go deep. Guilt and worry can keep us from living in the here and now. You know, either in the future or in the past. Denial of our disease and other reservations keep us sick. Many of us feel that we cannot possibly have a happy life without drugs. So I'm going to put that as a question and a show of hands. Who here feels that they cannot possibly have a happy life without drugs? Just by show of hands, it's just like a yes or no. There we go. Sam. Are we able to unmute ourselves, guys? And we'll give Sam, can we all unmute ourselves and give Sam a bit of comfort and encouragement? Yeah.
Sam, welcome. I noticed you had your hand up for the desire. Do you currently have a desire to stop using, Sam? Oh.
Welcome, Sam.
Welcome, Sam.
Welcome, Sam.
Well,
We love you, Sam.
Glad you're here.
Keep coming back.
Very glad you're here. Keep coming back.
Coming back.
You know, I was many of us, you know, many of us feel that we cannot possibly have a happy life without drugs. The people in NA gave me that belief that I could live without drugs, but I couldn't imagine that I could be happy. Sam, I can guarantee you through my own experience of working the steps that I found happiness. I'm not always happy. Just ask my sponsor and some of my closest, they'll tell you. But I can live a happy life. It's an absolute miracle. It is possible, you know, and I just wanted to share that with you. It goes on to say we suffer from fear and insanity and feel that there is no escape from using. You know, this is specifically speaking to those with a desire to stop using. We may fear rejection from our friends if we get clean. Who held on to old mates, you know, the old playgrounds, playmates and playthings because they were worried what they'd think. You know? By the end of my using, I'd alienated everybody apart from my mum, pretty much. And those workers that were paid to see me, they were quite happy to see me. That's not a judgment, by the way.
I need to go back and show them that I'm well.
Yeah. So I think that's a reservation I heard of someone's, Frankie. Yeah. So someone went back to where they used to use drugs to show them how well they were and to show them how, you know, how great they were doing. From my own experience, I was going to meet up with guys and girls I used to hang out with. I got invited in the first maybe 18 months of recovery, maybe even less. And they were having a gathering and I was really wanted to go because I wanted to show them that I was clean and I was well, you know. And I bailed at the last minute. I was supposed to meet them at 7:30 and I literally took a right up the road and I went to the meeting rather than going to show them. It's like, what did I have to prove? You know, because I did a fear. I experienced rejection and it was full of fear. But this allowed me, you know, I didn't have to prove anything to them, you know, but that experience was real for me. So, you know, someone in here may fear rejection from friends if they get clean, you know. These feelings are common to the addict seeking recovery. We could be suffering from an overly sensitive ego. Some of the most common excuses for using are loneliness, self-pity, and fear. Dishonesty, close-mindedness, and unwillingness are three of our greatest enemies. Self-obsession is the core of our disease. Would anybody like to add anything at this point? Or shall we keep moving? We'll keep moving, we'll keep moving. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. Okay, so it goes on to say, we have learned that old ideas and old ways won't help us to stay clean or to live a better life. To me, that implies change. We have learned that old ideas and old ways won't help us to stay clean or to live a better life. You know, I needed to change. If we allow ourselves to stagnate and cling to terminal hipness and fatal cool, we're giving in to the symptoms of our disease. Anybody in here terminally hip or fatally cool? Yeah. Been there sometimes, still am. Just need to let you know if I look all right, then project it that I'm okay, the no sweat school. 10 on the outside, 2 on the inside, dying, because it was more important to let you see that I'm doing okay than actually be doing okay. Fatally cool. Wow. One of the problems is that we found it easier to change our perception of reality than to change reality. We did that with drugs, can do that with our minds. We must give up this old concept and face the fact that reality and life go on whether we choose to accept them or not. We can only change the way we react and the way we see ourselves. This is necessary for us to accept that change is gradual, easy does it, and recovery is an ongoing process. It's ongoing. It says somewhere in our literature, it says the disease is with us 24 hours a day. It's with us 24 hours a day. Oh, but I'm in recovery. How could it be with me 24 hours a day? Because it does say in the literature the disease can be arrested at some point, and then recovery is possible. That's at any point during the day. It can be arrested, but it doesn't say that it can be cured, dissolved, or just goes away. It just can be arrested. Now, whether that's, whether you're 1 day clean, decade clean, however long clean, this is a just for a day program. This is necessary for us to accept that change is gradual and recovery is ongoing. At the bottom of the page, 55, a meeting a day for at least the first 90 days of recovery is a good idea. And it says why. There is a special feeling for addicts when they discover that there are other people who share their difficulties, past and present. Who here was suggested to do 90 meetings in 90 days? Awesome. Keep your hand up if you did do 90 meetings in 90 days. Who's going to get honest? I tried, I'm sure I did. Probably, it's a good idea.
I tried, but yeah.
Oh, you almost getting honest there, Scotty?
Yeah, I tried to do my 1990, but I just couldn't do it. So, but I do try and do a meeting a day.
Good stuff, Scotty. It just says it's a good idea. It's not a must. But it's there. There's some people that just can't for whatever reasons, and there's some people who can't for whatever excuses. And that's up to ourselves to discern. Nobody's here to monitor what anybody does.
I think why they say do 1990, I think it's because it takes 90 days for the obsession to go. That's what I was told. I don't know how true that is, but
okay. It might be for some people. For myself, it went quicker than that. But it hints there. It just says there is a special feeling for addicts when they discover that there are other people who share their difficulties, past and present. So by attending as many meetings as possible, like yourself, Scott, me and you both did that, as many as possible, then I started to feel part of the fellowship. I started to identify, I started to hear the difficulties that went way beyond, stopping using. I started to hear about stuff even from my past that I was very shameful about, that I didn't want to speak about. I was actually ashamed when people spoke about it. Like, oh my God. But then I started, it made it okay. And I got a big dose of the Me Too's when somebody spoke about some of the stuff I'd done or thought. It's like, wow. And there was a relief and it started to feel good. That's the importance, I encourage anybody, to just do as many meetings as you can. And with this current format, we should change it. The online, 90 meetings in 90 minutes. You could do it just, as many as we can. It says at first we can do little more than attend meetings. Yeah, Probably we cannot remember a single word, person, or thought from our first meeting. In time, we can relax, enjoy the atmosphere of recovery. Meetings strengthen our recovery. It's like a statement just right in there. Meetings strengthen our recovery. 3 people give us one thing, you know, of what it is in a meeting. When they're in a meeting, how could it strengthen your recovery? What is it about being in a meeting that it strengthens your recovery? Remember, talk from experience. There's no right, no wrong. Curtis, I believe. Sorry, Paul, you're still here. You'd move that.
Right. You come, Curtis.
I am Curtis, and I think this came on actually. I was out, so I missed many of my meetings, and as you just read, meetings strengthen our recovery. And so therefore it has strengthened my recovery, my ability to live life on life terms without the use of drugs, because the worst manifestation of disease will always be to use drugs. So from the day I came to NA, I have been attending meetings for over 25 years. I have not stopped yet. And if that's an obsession, well, I guess it's one of the ones the disease can't win, because I'm attending meetings. So I have accepted through the strength of the process of meeting attendance is that I have learned how to listen. I've learned how to identify. I've learned how to relate to other people, because I'm a totally self-centered person. And this reading starts with the steps. It starts with people who are institutionalized. And it gave them such information that start with the first 3 steps, where it is sponsored there. But the writers were even smarter than the disease, because we didn't have a sponsor in the institution, or maybe we had. But if we even read what the first chapter, first paragraph of the What Can I Do says, it told us about go on to step 1, go step 2, and then of course, with when you leave the institution, they made sure to say, please attend our meetings. So that is where meetings strengthens our recovery. And for those of us, it's not a measurement. 2 meetings a week could be regular. 1 meeting, our home group, could be a regular meeting. But we must attend meetings, because we will relapse. Regardless of using drugs or whatever, we will fall back into our old ideas and attitudes. It is a disease. It's not a drug problem. It's a disease, and I'm not going to go into the science of it, where I can say the second step said this or that. It didn't say anything, but we came to believe that a power could restore sanity, that if we accept who we are as an addict in step 1. So I don't like discussing the literature so much, except when I just jumped on, but the feeling of the entire piece, this feelings of this literature speaks back to us. So anytime we get involved, we get involved. And the newer people that are here need to just surrender and say, hey, I'm in the right place. I don't have to understand anything for it to work. They just have to keep coming and follow guidance and direction, which is keep coming, more will be revealed.
Thank you, Curtis.
I got a lot there. Thank you.
Superb. Thank you. Ian, do you want to come in?
Yeah, cheers, Paul. I'm Ian, I'm an addict. Going to, well, doing 90 meetings in 90 days and doing regular meetings, what it did for me was kind of smashed any denial I had. And I remember my first meeting, people were thinking and talking about the way they thought and the way they felt. You know, I could just identify so much, so it helped to smash any denial. And working it along with my step 1, the 90 meetings in 90 days, working it along with my step 1, and again picking up that spiritual principle, acceptance that I am an addict. It helped me build a foundation. The foundation for me, like if you think about it as like in a building, the foundation of a building, it gives you strength. So that's how I'm kind of like thinking about it in terms of this literature. So for me, it was just that, yeah, smashing any denial I had.
Nice one, Ian. Thank you. Ben, do you want to unmute yourself and come in?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think like meeting strength and recovery for me, just because a lot of the time I find it hard to identify the feelings and the thoughts I'm having, and hearing people talk and relating to them at meetings. You know, I've heard people sort of identify my feelings and my past and life in ways better than I could ever manage to word it myself. So just that kind of relating to people and discovering that you're not alone and there's other people that feel the same way you do, that kind of builds my recovery a lot and gives me hope when I see the way they are now. Yeah. And the back.
Thank you, Ben. Orion, sorry.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good to see you.
I'm good to see you guys. I'm from across the pond, but you got the two best Pauls over in the UK. Paul did a beautiful job of orating that thing, and Paul has always done a good job as conducting and getting us involved. And I appreciate it, because even with clean time, you still have to respect the disease of addiction. And that's why I'm glad I stayed for this period of time, because it has become constant. I don't just memorize it, I read it, and I have to flash back and remember what it was like. And I had to tell an addict just the other day, because he got to his third step and he kept detouring. And he thought he had a third step and went on, and then had to call me and say, I don't have 4 through 9. And he's at 11. So look at all those steps that he was trying to do, and he couldn't get the results. He asked, you have a suggestion? I said, what can I do? It says it right there, just what you said, higher power. We need to take it up as a hobby or whatever, because we can't just skip over it like the second step and expect things to work. But I appreciated what you said. I've just stopped using drugs. Now you want me to start talking about God? It can become an imposing figure, but we have to remember, if we wait, we better make sure that we don't use. See, I can't wait and dibble and dabble. It won't work. It'll kill me. So I can't use, and that urgency is what's going to move me. Come to a meeting, ask somebody, how did you find a higher power? And that's not easy, because this is not a religious program, but I got to get the information, because the damn disease is not going on vacation or hiatus. It's going to try its best to get me to like, well, that's not really important. It is important. What can I do? So I just thank you so much. I got to go share on a third step, and I'm glad I came in to get some ammunition to get grounded. And man, I always love to come over here. You have beautiful ladies and you have good orators. So it's good for the soul. Thanks for letting me share. I'll be back again.
Great to see you, Oren. Thank you. Good luck with the step 3 share, and we'll see you again soon. Mr. K, would you like to come in? Just unmute yourself.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for doing this workshop. Last bit that we mentioned was meet and strengthen our recovery. But my experience of, particularly with this chapter, is that the paragraphs are interdependent, not independent. That they're totally related. And if we go back to the paragraph that you covered, it says here, we learned that old ideas and old ways won't help us to stay clean and live a better life. But if we don't have new ideas, how can we live a new way of life? Right? And the 90 and 90, right, is really when we came together with this book. And 90 and 90 is it takes 6 weeks to break a physical habit and 6 weeks to make a fresh habit. That is the new ideas. We know this psychologically where this came from, and to understand that. So if we're into the second part of the 6-week cycle of 90 meetings in 90 days, we strengthen our recovery because we continue with the new ideas of this part of the program. Understanding that is very important. If anyone's new and they don't, look at it again, understand, right? I didn't come here. I didn't have any new ideas. I only had the junkie attitude. And to get new ideas, I had to get a new way of living. You know, it's a physical part of the disease that we're talking about, because when the book came out, we didn't have Zoom. You know, we had to physically get up and move. So for the 6 weeks, we broke down that old habit of going to hit up, right, at the trap house or with the dealer, and we started to hit up with NA. And to strengthen that, we must continue through the meeting. That's my experience.
Right. Thank you, Mr. K. Excellent. And then Spencer, Trevor, then Frankie, and then we'll move on, shall we, Paul? Okay, Spencer, you're next.
Thank you, Paul. Spencer, and I'm an addict. Just wanted to say, make it short. If you take away all the drugs, you know, I'm still the problem. So I have to change my attitude, my behavior. And what I find in the meetings that gives me strength is I see friends, which I didn't have friends. Well, I thought I had friends when I was in the using period, but they wanted my money, they wanted my drugs. Now I do have friends in NA program. And what gives me strength as well is the similarities, you know. Some of them are just as crazy as I am. And what gives me a lot of strength is to help the newcomer, you know. So it's not about me anymore. So Sam, keep coming back, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Trevor? Welcome, Trevor.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I want to thank you all for having this meeting and being invited. And I love book studies because you get different ideas, people with different definition of what they believe and what they think. That's important for me to grow. I want to go back to this year. If we allow ourselves to stagnate and cling to terminal hipness and fatal cool, we are giving into the symptom of our disease, right? So what you're asking me is to change. Because if the drugs don't get me, the lifestyle will. That's what you tell me. And part of my lifestyle is that fatally cool and hipness and all that kind of stuff. So I need to change that, right? Then he went on to say, one of the problems is that we found it easier to change our perception of reality than to change reality. I'm going to change that to my perception of reality than to change reality. Because I'm accustomed to fantasy. Reality does not, when I deal with reality, I'm facing life. But fantasy, because remember I got a committee that I can make my own world, right? I create my own, and my world is perfect. When I have a relationship in my mind, she is the finest looking, she never gets old, right? She do whatever I want because that's my fantasy. But the reality, when I deal with reality, I have to go through a process to do the things I want to do. And I just can't do anything I want. I just can't do that. So I have to grow. I have to change. And I have a disease that's progressive, incurable, and fatal. And the disease don't grow. So what, in other words, what my disease is saying, so now you want to let me go, right? I've been running your life. I have been doing all your life. You've been listening to me. And now you're coming to this program called Narcotics Anonymous, and you're going to do what they say. And I no longer have control. We got a problem. Because I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. I'm going to do everything in my life to hold on to you. We must give up. Now, here it is. We must give up this old concept and face the fact that reality and life goes on. Whether we choose to accept them or not. We can only change the way we act and the way we see ourselves. This is necessary for us to accept that change is gradual and recovery is an ongoing process. It's a struggle some days. It's gradual, it's pain, it's growth, it's suffering. It's like some days no. But check this out. A friend of mine called this chapter, what can I do? The hidden chapter. Because it's between the steps and the traditions, right? We have this, but I have steps to help me go through and what I got to go through. There's other people that need to get time to share, so I don't want to take up too much time. You know what I mean? You know, I like to follow the policy of the group, but the change has to take place. But some days are better than some, and change comes with time. Change doesn't happen overnight. I didn't wake up because it's only arrested. And I'm going to stop there so other people could get an opportunity.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks for reinforcing that point. Frankie.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I just wanted to jump on the 90 and 90. See, my experience for myself as an addict is I'm a bit of a sponge, and with most addicts that I've met, they take on board things quite easy. So when I was working with addicts in the past, before I was working with doing what I was doing, one of the things we used to do, for an example, 90 and 90, if you just try this, guys, rub your belly and pat your head. And you just do that for 7 days, yeah? Every single day for 7 days, you rub your belly and pat your head. And then on the Monday, you rub your head and pat your belly and see how fucking difficult it is. Sorry about the swearing there, but I just want to get the point across, is if we do something for long enough, if we attend meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days, the day we don't go to the meeting, something seems out of place. Addicts are easily to program, and we have to get good habits, it says. That's what we learn. Enough from me, thank you.
Great, Frankie, excellent. Okay, Paul, back to you.
Thanks everybody for your input, because there's so much in meetings that can strengthen our recovery, you know, and thanks for everybody's input into that. It goes on to say we may be scared at first because we don't know anyone. Some of us think that we don't need meetings. However, when we hurt, we go to a meeting and find relief. And guess what? On Friday night, I didn't think I needed meetings. And at 1 minute to 5, I realized I needed the meeting. I was in that battle, you know. So it doesn't mean I don't need meetings all the time. It's in that day. I was in this battle with myself, and I surrendered, and I went to the meeting, and I found relief. Meetings keep us in touch with where we've been, but more importantly, with where we could go in our recovery. You know, when we're in meetings, you know, I hear answers to questions I don't ask, and I get solutions to problems I didn't even know I had. How many times you've been sitting in a meeting and somebody said something and it's just like, boom, and you hear it. You hear it. And I didn't even know I had that problem or I needed that solution, or it reminded me of something or someone, you know. That's the importance of the meetings. That strengthens it even more for me. As we go to meetings regularly, we learn the value of talking with other addicts who share our problems and goals. We have to open up and accept the love and understanding that we need in order to change. You know, that's a really powerful line. We have to open up and accept the love and understanding that we need in order to change. When we become acquainted with the fellowship and its principles and begin to put them into action, we start to grow. We apply effort to our most obvious problems and let go of the rest. We do the job at hand, and as we progress, new opportunities for improvement present themselves. And that summed up really what everybody was saying, you know, not overnight, over time. Recovery is gradual, it's an uphill journey. You know, the disease is progressive, but so is recovery, and all those things. Our new friends in the fellowship will help us. Our common effort is recovery. For those that are not or might be acquainted with the traditions, tradition 1, it says, you know, our common welfare must come first. Personal recovery depends on any unity. You know, so what is our common welfare? Well, for me, Paul's recovery, our common welfare must come first. Personal recovery depends on any unity. That's our common welfare, recovery, whether it's Tony whether it's Sam, whether it's Ian, whether it's Curtis, whether it's Galaxy A10S. You know, that's what it is. It's recovery, what that means to us. For the newcomer, it's about stopping using drugs. You know, for the old timer down the line, it might just be, who knows? You know, it's personal to us, you know, our personal recovery. And it's the unity that we've been speaking about, strengthen our, the meeting, strengthen our recovery. Clean, we face the world together. We no longer have to feel backed into a corner at the mercy of events and circumstances. It makes a difference to have friends who care if we hurt. We find our place in the fellowship and we join a group whose meetings help us in our recovery. We have been untrustworthy for so long that most of our friends and families will doubt our recovery. They think it won't last. We need people who understand our disease and the recovery process. At meetings, we can share with other addicts, ask questions, and learn about our disease. We learn new ways to live. We are no longer limited to our old ideas. And that's encapsulating what happens in meetings. I'm going to move on because I know the time is taken away from us, and it'd be really nice to get through the whole chapter. I see Curtis has got his hand up, Paul.
You want to come in just quickly, Curtis, on something that's just been mentioned?
I just from what the speaker was sharing about, he said something that was so amazing, you know. Meetings make us make it, yes. It helps us to change our personalities as well as our as ourselves. But you know what I heard? What he said, and then I listened. And so to all of us, listening is really a repetition of hearing. And when we learn to listen, we learn to change. And that's what I got from what he said. It's not just what I can't interpret everything that is read right here, right now. The fact is that I just got that amazing experience, which kept me coming to meetings, learning to listen. That is what has kept me moving forward this far. So thank you again.
Thanks, Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis. Okay, gradually, it says, you know, I've been saying gradually over time. So gradually, we replace old habits with new ways of living. We become willing to change. We go to meetings regularly, get and use telephone numbers, read literature, and most importantly, we don't use. We learn to share with others. If we don't tell someone we are hurting, they will seldom see it. When we reach out for help, we can receive it. Another tool for the newcomer is involvement with the fellowship. As we become involved, we learn to keep the program first and take it easy in other matters. We begin by asking for help and trying out the recommendations of people at the meetings. It is beneficial to allow others in the group to help us. In time, we will be able to pass on what we have been given. We learn that service to others will get us out of ourselves. Our work can begin with simple actions: emptying ashtrays, making coffee, cleaning up, setting up for a meeting, opening the door, chairing a meeting, and passing out literature. Doing these things help us feel a part of the fellowship. Now, you know, some of those suggestions in there, you know, we're in a new format here, you know, online. So, you know, I'm just going to throw it out there. We'll maybe get like maybe 2 more hands come up. I know that 2 are already open up. How have you managed to get involved online? You know, what service have you been able to do and whilst being online? I think it's very important. Share that with people on here so we can all hear what it is you managed to do.
Does anyone, sorry, Galaxy, I don't know your name. Why don't you come in and I'll rename you. Tell me your name. You can unmute.
Good evening, my name is Anthony. I'm from Barbados and I'm an addict.
Oh, welcome, Anthony.
Welcome, Anthony.
How I really get online, I started to, we got a 12 o'clock meeting, we do it on the day, you know, and after the COVID come and they can get to meetings, it's online. I didn't first like it at first because I didn't really want to be all over the world on Zoom, And then it hit me, and then gradually I keep joining every meeting I see, just looking for my phone and joining the meetings, because it really helped. It really helped. But I want to share something on what can I do, When I first went, because I'm doing 23 years now in recovery, this is my 24th year, But when I first came out of rehab and I just attended the Indian meetings, because it happened to the newcomer, right? I sharing for the newcomer, I start to select who I really want to listen to. That was my first mistake, I start to select people, because when people were sharing, I tell myself, I ain't do like them like that, and I find that hamper me in my recovery, right? It's only when I open up, I start listening to everybody, because everybody in the meeting rooms has got something very important to say. It might not register at the point in time, right? But later on in recovery, you could go back and you remember saying, you know what? So I stopped picking people and I start looking at similarities, I start looking at the similarities of what I was doing, So this is a nice chapter and it's a very important chapter because to tell me here, if I don't change, I will beg for change. And I could never understand that phrase, right? So even after such time in recovery, I just still struggle because the course is not clear, even in day-to-day living, because for me as an addict, you've got to apply enough principles on a day-to-day basis to get you a day. As simple as it looks, because people in society don't really understand us. It's only when they get to a meeting and they get among the addicts, I could feel at home,
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. We'll take someone else. We'll just keep moving. Thank you for your contribution. Brilliant. Robin, you had your hand up. Did you want to come in on this one, on the issue of service while we've been online?
Yes, I just wanted real quick. I raised my hand for.
You're breaking up.
It took,
there you go.
It took a long time for me to hit Zoom, and it was at the encouragement of someone else, and it has really it gave me my recovery back. And it's also given me the opportunity to share it with sponsees and others, recovery. And I've gotten the opportunity to stay after and just love the newcomer, just give them that hope, that faith, that, that, yes, it works, keep coming back. So that's the only service I've done so far yet. I'm still getting new to Zoom, so I do look forward to participating and supporting other areas and supporting conventions and stuff like that. That's important.
That is important.
The other thing what really stuck out to me was something that we read is we need people who understand our disease and the recovery process. It is a process. It is not, and it happens forever, as long as we keep coming back. And I'm grateful to be in that process and growing and learning and being able to help others through their processes with my experience. I just wanted to throw that in there. It doesn't happen overnight.
Excellent. Thank you. I think we've got Scotty, then Steve, then Matt. Scott.
Hi. Yes, Scott, addict. Our home group, which was a live face-to-face meeting, I used to do all the tea and the coffee there. I was advised by my sponsor to get involved with every bit of service I could do. And through Zoom, I became meet and greet and a newcomer rep, do you know what I mean? And And I think that helped me to stay clean, because they say service keeps you clean, and yeah, it does work. It's just the suggestions that was given to me by my sponsor, and the elders, who I call the elders, who've got clean time. Yes, so we made up service positions just to get us there. Yeah, thanks. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Scott. Great to hear you again. Steve?
Cheers, Paul. I'm Stephen. I'm an addict. Yeah, massive, man. It's massive, because I know for myself, the service that I do, I mean, I was doing a lot of service when I was at physical, but I can probably make it even more unmanageable and get to even more service committee meetings. I'm doing more service at home group level. I was able to attend area service committees in different areas, learn from them, PI in different areas and learn from them, go to committees that I just never be able to attend. So this platform's really opened up for myself to get involved in service at so many different levels, even if I just want to jump in and observe. So it's massive for me.
Thank you, Steve. There was a guy, just coming quickly, there was a guy on Clean and Serene today, Erico from Brazil, and he was talking about a guy 6 years ago who got clean and had to paddle in a boat. He's from the Amazon jungle for 30 days to pick up his white keyring, and he stayed clean for 6 years, and he's been instrumental in setting up, they've got 2,000 online meetings now in Brazil, and he's been setting up in rural Amazonia, and getting the message out to hundreds, if not thousands more addicts. I thought that was incredible. Matt, do you want to come in?
Wow.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm an addict. Yeah, so I'm 78 days now. So service for me, I've only just started. I've been given the opportunity to come on to Clean and Serene and do some service on here. So thank you very much for that opportunity. But in coming out of rehab, not knowing much about service, and somebody said to me, one of the counsellors said to me, the best thing that you can do is go on and give service by sharing how you're feeling, identifying, becoming relatable. And so until I'm in a clean time that I can pick up actual service positions, that was my approach. And I think everybody in this meeting gives me service back, which is brilliant. It's like what you said, Paul, there's constant learnings, constant relatable. I'm not the only person that's thinking that. I'm wanting to ask questions, but somebody's just answered the question. It's just brilliant. So service to me goes far beyond just the positions. So yeah, I'll hand it back.
Nice one, Matt. And here's another pure service junkie away to come in and share. Carletta.
I know that's right. Hi, my name is Carletta Paul. Thank you for definitely having this workshop. I too have a workshop. We have newcomers from all over the world that come in. Everybody has a niche here. Everybody has a niche. And if you come in, you will find your niche. And when I say that's an American word, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, a niche is your place in the rooms of Narcotic Anonymous. Everybody has their place. Services, you put up a chair. Services, you just attend. Okay, we're not in the outside meetings. Let's talk about Zoom. There is so much to do on Zoom. There are so many people that still need our help on Zoom. There are so many people. I mean, so many. Paul was talking about, very quickly, Paul was talking about an individual who had to get on a boat and travel. I met a friend in Iran, to Paul. Paul introduced me. He was on one meeting that Paul had hosted, and he was telling me that they only got NA 10 years ago. 10. He was thanking the Zoom in America. He was thanking, people who did service to introduce them. Just because we're sitting in a meeting doesn't mean other addicts aren't still suffering. Service is the price we pay for our rent on earth. And believe me, I owe my life to NA. My sister killed herself I am a stir. I will always be. I will always be. I will always be sifting out people because just for today, we found a way out. And even if you got one day, you are service to somebody else. Don't think because, and I hear people say, oh, I only have, are you freaking kidding me? It took me 20 years to get here. One day was like a year to me. So we count your one day. Your one day is an amazing one day. Literature says anyone, it didn't say for a one day clean is a miracle. It is right. You know, in the first step, it says the shackles of bondage of addiction is broken now. Even if it is, a day is unbelievable. That's why we roll when you got a day. You know, I did read the chapter and there was something that I did put. Do I still have time, Paul?
Yeah, take another minute. Yeah.
Okay, I'm New Yorker. I didn't talk fast. Listen, okay. Somebody pointed out something, developing. Developing, we're going to change it over now. Developing, you come in here and you develop a conscious contact with God. What can I do? Because you're going to need him one day. Listen, just because you're clean don't mean the world is going to stop and be in your favor. Hello? No. So here we get a conscious contact with God, and you will get one. Keep doing the book work like Paul I got you into. You'll find one, and it's a good thing because you're going to need them. Just saying. Habits. All right.
Thanks. Love it. Okay, Paul, back to you.
So thanks, everybody. So there's so many different service opportunities, and just by being in a meeting, you're being of service. Tradition 7 speaks about it. Tradition 7 is thought of as the money tradition. But it's about time and energy. And just by being in there, in a meeting, you know, saying I'm an addict, reading a card, that's being of service. Picking up a keyring is being of service because it's giving people hope. You know, all those are acts of service. If you're not involved with service at the moment, you probably are and don't know it. Or if you want a service position or commitment, you know, go to your group and ask them, hey, how can I be of service? You know what it said in the passage there. You know, it gets us out of ourselves. If you want out of yourself, you know, you can get into service. You know, along with the steps. It's absolutely beautiful journey and experience. So halfway down the page of page 57, it says we have found it helpful to have a sponsor and to use this sponsor. Two different, to have a sponsor and to use the sponsor. Yeah, I think we all get that one. Sponsorship is a two-way street. It helps both the newcomer and the sponsor. The sponsor's clean time and experience may well depend on the availability of sponsors in a locality. Sponsorship for newcomers is also the responsibility of the group. It is implied and informal in its approach, but it is the heart of any way of recovery from addiction. One addict helping another. And the beauty of this format is this is the locality. You know, when I first came into NA, the fellowship where we are now was quite small and sponsorship was quite limited. There were people sponsoring people, but I went out with my locality, you know. But with this format currently as well, you know, we can sponsor each other, you know, all over the world, which is absolutely beautiful, you know, and it's encouraging as well, encouraging the newcomers or anybody that's sponsorless, you know, the old timers, you know. Who in here has a sponsor? There we go. Who in here is using their sponsor? I have to put my hand down and be honest. Yeah, I haven't phoned them in a long time. You know, I'm writing step work, but I haven't phoned my sponsor. So again, you know, it's a tick. You know, when I first came in, yeah, I've got a sponsor, but it's like saying, you know, yeah, I'm going to attend meetings. So we have this thing, it's cunning and baffling, wants to trick us up. Awareness. So I'm aware of our time. I don't know if we maybe get like a time extension, but we'll try and go through.
Definitely. Just keep going, Paul. I think if everyone's okay.
Yeah, if everyone's cool. Yeah. So one of the most profound changes in our lives is in the realm of personal relationships. Our earliest involvement with others often begin with our sponsor As newcomers, we find it easier if we have someone whose judgment we trust and in whom we can confide. We find that trusting others with more experience is a strength rather than a weakness. Our experience reveals that working the steps is our best guarantee against relapse. Our sponsors and our friends can advise us on how to work the steps. We can talk over what that steps mean. They can help us to prepare for the spiritual experience of living the steps. Asking God as we understand him for help improves our understanding of the steps. When we are prepared, we must try out our newly found way of life. We learn that the program won't work when we try to adapt it to our life. We must learn to adapt our life to the program. We're going to open it up on sponsorship. And I'd like people just to share the importance of it and on trust. I didn't trust my sponsor. I just didn't. I said I did, but I didn't. But if anybody has some, they would like to share something on, sponsorship and trust, and just share it with everybody. I think it's really important.
Trevor, do you want to come in?
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad you picked that. He says, let's talk about sponsorship. And it's a two-way street, right? What sponsorship has done for me, I'm talking about me, has helped me to learn to trust, right? I don't have faith in a human being. I can trust a human being. And getting to know someone, it has helped me to trust other people. And my sponsor today, Paul, you know what I respect you for? I respect you for saying what you just said. I have not called my sponsor in a while. I like that. I like the honesty in that. Well, it tells me I better call my sponsor. See, what you didn't do, you did not try to impress me or others. Like, you're talking about sponsorship. No. What you did for me was let me know that you're vulnerable, right? So sponsorship, my sponsor and I just don't talk. It has gotten to a point where we just don't talk about recovery. We talk, maybe all of this is part of recovery, but we talk about other things in life. We talk about the health, we talk about life, we talk about, the things that we're going through, within recovery. I remember doing an 8-step, and I took it, I was on this virtual platform, I was talking into the 8-step, and he told me, Paul, he says, I'm not listening to that bullshit. I said, what? He says, we're talking about it here. He said, how much clean time you got? So I told him, he says, we're talking about the here and now. We're not talking about what you did 30 years ago. You're not living like that anymore. You're not making the same mistakes. Let's talk about now. Let's talk about what's going on with you today in the 8-step. He made sense because I've moved on. And how come he did that? Because he knows me. I did a 4th and a 5th. I did all the steps with him. So it's important to begin to, and let me say this and shut up because I know other people want to say something. If you get a sponsor and it does not work out, because it happens, try not to put everybody in the same category. You move on because it's going, somewhere along the line, you're going to need somebody to listen to. You're going to need somebody to talk to, and so you practice trust. It might fail, but you keep trying and trying until you get somewhere with it. Thanks.
Thank you, Trevor. Frankie?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Just some experience and guidance from the book around sponsorship, because I have experience on sponsorship. I've done a lot of sponsorship. It's a really important part. Sorry about the noise. It's just my dog on the bed. It's not my belly. One of the things it says in the basic text, which is so true and was so hard for me, is that we lose the respect of newcomers when we give them advice. You know, when we start advising people what to do, we lose their respect. The only way we can kind of, instead of telling newcomers what to do, because you couldn't tell me jack shit, I was too dense. What I do is I share my experience. And one of the things what was really important for me, because I came in with other issues, not just about not using, I came with issues around children. And my sponsor would say to me, why don't you talk to somebody with experience, who had some clean time in the program, who has experience? It's infallible, because at the end of the day, you have to make up your own mind. Your sponsor isn't God, and your sponsor can't tell you what to do. You have to make up your own decision. Otherwise, you end up like one of those other guys from the other places where you become a robot. We want you to be an individual. Our diversity is our strength. Finish. Thanks.
Thank you, Frankie. And Curtis?
Hi, Curtis again. Sponsorship is a very important process, and it is the process. Even in reading literature, it is the process. Because it's said even it's a responsibility of the group, but sponsorship for me is what brought a physical, mental, and spiritual connection. So that is where I got my conscious contact with a higher power. I go very deep with sponsorship, but I've had the same sponsor for all of my recovery. He can't hear right now, and I have spoken to his wife today, but he spoke to me when I can hear him, and that was more than enough. That's the connection with sponsorship that I have. We can't talk to each other on the phone, but if I sat before him, he can read my lips. That's how deep he is with his work. So today, sponsorship is really the cornerstone of our fellowship, because it brings about a spiritual awakening and a conscious contact with God through the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. So that's how important sponsorship is. Even having someone who is given or shared with us at the group level, it starts to build that therapeutic connection that is necessary for an addict to survive. Because if we are not connected therapeutically, we are just disconnected and we go all over the place. So that's my share.
Thank you, Curtis. And Savani?
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Paul. I'm Savani. I'm an addict. I'll just add quickly something that I read very early on. I think it was in the sponsorship IP, but I could be wrong. And something I found as well, it was that sponsorship sometimes functions as like a blueprint to build the rest of our relationships on, especially very early on, because the kind of dynamic of honesty and transparency that I found in sponsorship, you can replicate some of that in other relationships. I'm not confiding in everyone the way I confide in my sponsor, but that spirit of honesty where, I'm not making things up anymore. I'm not a compulsive liar anymore. I can transfer it, the first time I'm comfortable just telling the truth is to my sponsor, and I'm not receiving judgment in return. I'm not experiencing rejection in return, and now I know the feeling. Now I know that telling the truth is not the worst thing. Now some of that fear is lifted. I can transfer that into other relationships, and now I'm slowly learning honesty. I'm telling the truth, and it says that about newcomers as well, that we need someone to confide in when we're just coming in, and that's very true. When I shared, I sometimes shared that shame was like a big motive in my life, my whole life, in my addiction, and even before that. And shame is rooted in secrecy. When I'm keeping a secret, that's breeding shame, and that's festering, and it's feeding into the disease. And now that I have a relationship, I'm very, very grateful. I have a relationship with my sponsor where I've been able to tell her everything that's in my mind. And when something else comes up, I tell her that as well. When I did a step 4, I told her everything I had in my mind at the time. And after that, several months after that, some other stuff came up and I was able to tell her that too, which I didn't remember at the time because it's a process. And I'm very pleased to reveal that I have no secrets anymore. I've got no secrets, and shame doesn't play a big part in my life anymore. And again, it's a process and it comes in waves, but I'm not living in it. I'm not driven by it, and that's all because of sponsorship. So yeah, thanks for letting me add that, and thanks for the workshop. I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you, Savani. And we'll just take Carletta and then pass it back to Paul. You can unmute yourself, Carletta.
Yeah. Hi, everybody again. I think it's in step 2. I know you, stepologist, helped me out. Didn't it say in step 2, and I'm looking for, you called me too quick. It said, let the group sponsor you until you find the sponsor. Did it? I think it was in step 2. I hate to be wrong. Well, anyway, step 2. If I'm, come on, guys, you guys got a lot of time. Help us out. Anyway, so sponsorship. I'm going to bring it down. See, in my head, I have to put things where I understand it. Because if I sit and that's why we go through the literature. If I sit and do it on my own, I will accept it as my own and twist it all around. So sponsorship is the heartbeat of the program. I know for myself, you think that I just came off a big crack binge, I'm going to trust you guys? Are you freaking kidding me? That's why they tell you to get one person to guide you through. And I don't care how many degrees you have. You're here with us. We take our hats off and we sit down and we learn the program. Now you have somebody taking you through the program. You do your step work with your sponsor. If you feel like using, you call her. A lot of people don't want to talk to a lot of people. That's not their niche. Some people have been isolated by the use of addiction that they're afraid to talk to a big group. That's why the program is so beautiful. It minimized it down to one person, and you have to look and listen first. But you just don't pick anybody. You know what I'm saying? You don't pick a person with a flashy car because they're wearing the clothes you wear. They might be out of their mind. People recover on different degrees. So it says, listen and listen for a sponsor. And a newcomer asked me, how do I know when a person is good to be my sponsor? Guess what, guys? We're in a spiritual program. Your spirit will let you know. I love that person. Oh my God, that's for me. Woo, woo, woo. Can you be my sponsor? They'll say yes. Appointed by God. Love you guys.
Thank you. Okay, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for your input in that. And the line is, it's there. It says, sponsorship for newcomers is also the responsibility of the group. So the groups as well. We encourage people to get sponsors, but we encourage them towards whom as well. And love and support them that way. And there's a beautiful line in the IP, the sponsorship IP as well. It says, someone once asked, why do I need a sponsor? And the sponsor replied, because it's pretty hard to spot self-deception by yourself. I remember reading that and just laughing. It's like, wow. So there's many reasons why we need a sponsor. So thanks everybody for input into that. We're going to flick the page over. Top of page 58. Today, yes, that's today. Today, we seek solutions, not problems. We try what we have learned on an experimental basis. We keep what we need and leave the rest. We find that by working the steps, communicating with our higher power, talking to our sponsors, and sharing with newcomers, we are able to grow spiritually. The 12 steps are used as a program of recovery. We learn that we can go to our higher power for help in solving problems. When we find ourselves sharing difficulties that used to have us on the run, we experience good feelings that give us the strength to begin seeking God's will for us. We believe that our higher power will take care of us if we honestly try to do God's will to the best of our ability, we can handle anything that happens. Seeking our higher power's will is a spiritual principle found in the steps. Step 11, I believe. Working the steps and practicing the principles simplifies our lives and changes our old attitudes. When we admit that our lives have become unmanageable, we don't have to argue our point of view. We have to accept ourselves as we are. We no longer have to be right all the time. When we give ourselves this freedom, we can allow others to be wrong. Freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. It's funny because last night I was in a meeting and I shared change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. I remember sharing that last night. I knew there was something wrong about it. And when I read this morning, because I read it this morning just to refresh myself of it, that line was in there, but it says specifically freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. Because for me, if I don't accept that I'm an addict, or I don't accept some of my more unsightly character defects, if I'm not even aware that I've got them, how do I even have the freedom to change? I just don't, because I don't know. And that's again why sponsorship's so important, why having a higher power, we develop that over time. And that freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. If I accept that I'm a then it allows me to change. If I don't know, or I'm not aware, or don't accept it, I'm going to continue being a and it's freedom. It's part of our fifth tradition. The message is hope and the promise of freedom, that an addict, any addict, can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. There's a lot in that three paragraphs that we read, and I'm not entirely sure how to throw this open. So what I'm just going to do is throw it open and allow you just to say what you want to say, rather than me say, hey, let's speak about. So we'll just weigh our hands and we'll.
Spencer?
Yes, my name is Spencer and I'm an addict. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, and thank you all in the meeting. I've learned a lot today. I just want to express my gratitude because I have to leave. I had to talk to sponsees as a sponsor. And being a sponsor, I want to share this, it's a 24/7 job, because if I do it wrong, my sponsees will die. So it's a huge responsibility to be a sponsor. That's what I want to share my experience. And I love my sponsors to bit. And I don't know why. My sponsors, they like me. And it's of course it's a bit of ego, and it's part of the program. And thank you, Paul. My book is always like this, so you can see it's always marks in there. That's how I do my literature. And you pinpoint all the stuff which I already marked, and that's the great stuff. So I'm leaving. Thank you, Spencer, grateful addict from Holland. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Spencer.
Thanks, Spencer.
Okay, anyone else want to come in? Curtis?
Hi, I just have this thought. Freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. That's a complete acceptance and conditional surrender. And that's for the newcomer is right here, right now. The whole time I could only give away what we have. And that's why it is so important the newcomer. They're the most important people, because we could only keep what we have by giving it away. It's a paradox, and it's easy or is it hard to say, hey, just accept you feel good or bad, and that change. Because we want to change. It's the nature of the disease to want to do things. Where the process of recovery is a surrender through the change. So freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. That's a process through the 12 steps and even the 12 traditions, because it's how best we serve each other, is where we accept ourselves even more. So that's just my take on it.
Thank you, Curtis. So what are we looking for here, Paul? Were you looking for a kind of summary on kind of what we've been talking about?
Yeah. Or we can just keep going. I see
Trevor will come in, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear. I wanted to ask Paul a question. Freedom to change seems to come after acceptance of ourselves. Do you think that comes out of the fourth step, the fourth and the fifth step?
It's a very good question. I would say that part of it does, yeah. You know, I'll just talk from my own experience for a bit. You know, when I shared that fifth step, you know, it allowed me to be seen through new eyes, through my own, and also my sponsor, and to actually see a lot of the stuff that was hidden from me. I know about this condition, and part of it is denial, and denial actually protects me. It was a survival skill to protect me from reality, because the reality of my life, whether that was through my active addiction or even in my active defective addiction and my defects, I couldn't see a lot of that stuff. I was blind to it. But then by seeing that stuff and it being revealed in a loving, trusting place with trust, I was able to see myself. I didn't feel rejected as well, you know, which was really important. And these character defects were laid out, and character assets. You know, like I say, oh, I struggle with character defects. You know, to be given these character assets and to accept them into my life, that I was actually a good person, you know, that I had these qualities, that took time. So yeah, the process had already begun before step 4, but when I shared, step 5 as well, when that was shared, it deepened that process, because I got to see me more than the bits that were hidden. 6 and 7, we're furthering it into relationship with a higher power, or whatever that is for people. But that's where I really saw myself. I think it says in the beginning of step 4 about it sorts through the confusion and contradiction of our lives to find out who we really are. Oh, what? So you're trying to say I don't know who I am? Yes. So if I don't know who I am, how can I even begin to change who I am? But by finding that out, and it was a painful realization as well as a beautiful one, then the things that needed changed, or that I would like change, that's when I moved into a relationship with this higher power thing and allowed that to work in my life. So yeah, step 4 for sure, yeah. But I think through every step you'll see that, as well, like that acceptance in step 8, accepting that I'm going to go on and make amends. It takes great courage. And so yeah, I hope that answers.
No, you did. You helped me a hell of a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Frankie, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just quickly, can I chuck a question in? It says it said it 3 times as we've gone through this, and that is, it's not aimed at you, Paul, this question, it's just chucking the question out there. It says in the next bit about getting out of ourselves. Okay, the example, I just lost it, as we do. About helping another person allows you to get out of yourself. Now, if I was a newcomer, I'd be confused, because I was always getting out of it. That's the question. What is it, getting out of yourself? What does it mean by that?
Can I answer that? Is that right on the
floor? Come in and feedback, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When it says getting out of yourself, do you ever notice, I'm going to put it in layman terms. Paul can probably go into it philosophically, but I'm going to put it into, when you're feeling really bad you're having a really bad day, and somebody calls you and they say, I could use your help. You know, my kids are acting up. You know, I feel like using, you know, and you're having your bad day. But something about this program, you say, well, you know, I've had those bad days and I kept on going. That's getting out of yourself to help somebody else out. And it actually fills your spirit box, your spirit. Because if you never notice it, be aware of your, you know, of your spirit. Be aware of that. When you help somebody else out, it always seems to cleanse whatever you're going through. You be like, dang, you know, I feel kind of good. And if you continue to do that, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling. And I, you know, that's my perception. Now, Paul, definitely you can add to it, you know, but that's how I, you know, perceive it to be. But Paul, please.
Thanks, Carla. I'm gonna answer it with a line in this chapter. You know, and the line in that chapter, it's on the second page of this chapter, and it says, self-obsession is the core of our disease. That's one sentence. Self-obsession is the core of our disease. Self-obsession means obsessed with self. To get out of myself, help others. That's why, you know, like when we did the face-to-face meetings, or even in service opportunities here, you know, for me, I've, you know, to make the coffee, you know, or the tea, I didn't know I was getting out of myself, you know, but I was actually getting out and facing myself. How many times have you heard or said the line? It's maybe a Scottish one. You know, we take drugs to get out of our head. I'm going to get out my head tonight, or my head. For you, I'm going to get out of my head. Get out of my head. That's essentially what I wanted to do. I couldn't handle how I felt or what I thought. I needed to get out of that, and I used drugs to do that. The drugs go. I just went into myself, into self-obsession again, and that's the core of my disease. Clean. That's the core of my disease. So by helping others, you know, that's how we get out of ourselves.
Paul, can I just say something quickly? Okay, this is quite a little bit of a funny story. I think Frankie knows what I'm going to say. First time I met Frankie was at the European Convention in Portugal, and we were sitting watching one of the main speakers. This is the first time I'd ever heard anything like this. And I'm listening to him, very new. And Frankie's obviously got a different take on the share. It was very me, myself, and I, very kind of self-obsessed. And I said to Frankie, I went, wow, what a powerful message. And he said, you know what she needs to do? I said, what? He said, she needs to help someone to help herself. And I was like, God, these London guys are a bit brutal, aren't they? But do you know what? The great thing is that's always stuck with me. I've never forgotten that. So thank you, Frankie. Anthony, do you want to come in?
You just unmute him. If you unmute Anthony.
I unmute you, Anthony.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to say that thanks to the meeting, because I have to go back to work now, and I thoroughly enjoy the meeting, you know. And what Coretta just said is truly right. So that happened another person, you know, no matter who it be, you know, it makes you feel a lot better and encourage you to do better, you know, because if I know better, I should do better, you know, because the things I know I should do. Because tell me in the book that even the things they don't like doing, I have to do. And that's what keep me going. Thanks for the meeting, guys. And I will try to tune in. Next time I have to go back to work. I'm at work, and I just do the things that I shouldn't be supposed to be doing because I'm at work. But I just want to get a meeting.
Thank you for your contribution tonight, Anthony. Great to see you.
Thanks, Anthony. So the next part, and this speaks about what we're doing here tonight. Sharing with fellow addicts is a basic tool in our program. This help can only come from another addict. It is the help that says, I have had something like that happen to me and I did this. For anyone who wants our way of life, we share experience, strength, and hope instead of preaching and judging. If sharing the experience of our pain helps just one person, it was worth the suffering. We strengthen our own recovery when we share it with others who ask for help. If we keep what we have to share, we lose it. Words mean nothing until we put them into action. So I wonder if Paul will call his sponsor. Yeah, you know, talking about it. Who's talking about finish their step 4 or their step 8? Or yeah, I'm halfway. Actually, I was halfway through my step 9 last week, and yesterday I spoke to my friend and I told him that I was on the cusp of finishing my step 9. Yeah, I haven't actually done anything since, so I was halfway through it. I'm now on the cusp of finishing it, but I haven't picked up the pen yet. See how I just deceived myself, and I was speaking the truth when I was saying those statements. But thankfully, I see myself through other addicts. So words mean nothing until we put them into action. We recognize our spiritual growth when we are able to reach out and help others. We help others when we participate in service work and try to carry the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. We learn that we keep what we have only by giving it away. Also, our experience shows that many personal problems are resolved when we get out of ourselves and offer to help those in need. We recognize that no one addict can best understand. We recognize that one addict can best understand and help another addict. No matter how much we give, there is always another addict seeking help. I'm aware of the time. We've got like 4 minutes left. I'm just going to finish reading this last bit. Yeah. And so we cannot afford to lose sight of the importance of sponsorship and of taking a special interest in a confused addict who wants to stop using. Experience shows clearly that those who get the most out of the Narcotics Anonymous program are those to whom sponsorship is important. Sponsorship responsibilities are welcomed by us and accepted as opportunities to enrich our personal NA experience. Working with others is only the beginning of service work. NA service allows us to spend much of our time directly helping suffering addicts, as well as ensuring that Narcotics Anonymous itself survives. This way, we keep what we have by giving it away. So I'm going to finish speaking just by saying thank you, for this opportunity to be of service. I thank the group and those that have done service tonight, or everybody here has done service tonight. We found that out, didn't we? And allowing me to take part in my recovery. And also just this format as well. It's allowing us to reach far and wide. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be of service tonight, and also just to sit here and listen to you guys, because I don't know it all as much as I tell myself that I think I do. I'm just another addict trying to get another day clean and do my best to keep growing. And so yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Can we all unmute and give